Hi guys, my name's Ryan Preece from Telstra Purple, but you guys may know it as Redify. So we recently had a nice little name change, so same people, but now I get to call myself a Telstra Purple Senior Consultant. Ta-da! Today, I'm here to talk to you about modern JavaScript for web dinosaurs. Now I'm assuming you all kind of internally think you're dinosaurs. Yeah, because I do too, and this is why I'm here talking to you about it. So, I have been in this industry for about 10 plus years. Originally I was a web dev, way back when, doing PHP. Don't judge me. It'll become relevant later. And then I moved into .NET, started doing back-end stuff, HoloLens, mobile, all the rest. And then my career started turning back into .NET, away from .NET into more webby stuff, and this talk was born. So, if you're a JavaScript guru, you should probably leave the room right now. I mean, Troy Hunt's got a great talk on it if you want to go see him. If you're lost, he's over there. But for the rest of us who actually, you feel a bit like this. You have JavaScript, you spend ages setting it up, and by the time you're done, everyone's moved on, the framework's been abandoned, and your princess is now another castle. Me, every time, for the last 2 to 3 years, I try to pick something up, I felt like this. Mostly dejected and really not liking what I saw. So for me, the JavaScript ecosystem became completely unrecognizable. I left development in 2010, where jQuery was king. Where's my jQuery people at? Anybody here? jQuery? Hey, my people. Downloading a file was all you needed to do, and we were all good. Put it in a directory, upload FTP, job done. I came back in 2018-19 to a very, very different place. There was frameworks, there was build tools, transpilers, task runners, packages. No, it felt like a modern language for a start. It was very hard for me to pick up if I'd been away. I didn't know what these terms were. I didn't know what React was, didn't know where Webpack was, why I needed it, what Node was, what Webpack, what are these things? So, what I want to go through today is my journey and what I learned along the way of, well, this is still me, but we can pretend that I knew what I was doing, of coming from way back when the tech was in the dark ages, and to now being able to proficiently lie that I am a good JavaScript developer. So, we'll go from the dark ages. We'll start with a basic website, which looks like this. This will be our vehicle for the ride. And we'll take into the future, one technology at a time, and so you too can understand the building blocks that lead us to the modern ecosystem where we are today. So before the beginning, ye old JavaScript, when everything was dark and scary and primordial soup. 90s JavaScript, I apologize if anyone's having PTSD right now. I do looking at this. If you're young, you may never experience this true horror. But what this is doing here, top HTML, bottom JavaScript, we go and get our window onload, we attach an event handler, we get a function, we go element by ID, pick up our HTML element called SP, we call new date, get a date, throw some HTML inside it with some JavaScript. For me, this is what when I still think of JavaScript, this is what I think of, scarily enough. When you run this code, it looks like this. The current day is 3. Awesome. That tells me everything I need to know. Fantastic, job done. We've got some text, some date representation, sweet. We then move forward a bit to the dark ages, the 2000s, when IE6 ruled the world and we all lived in fear. But we downloaded libraries at this time to make our life slightly more easier. So we start using things like jQuery, Moment, where you download libraries from a server, you add them, you reference them, and you start doing something a bit more fancy with the language. So you did a mild update to the code. We said here that we're going to start using a DOM ready handler, so we're not going to start loading junk until it's actually ready. We're going to go use the Moment library we just installed, get the format, in long form for a date, like classic language, and then we're going to call this append onto an element that we've just found. Now this should be familiar to most people in the room. No one should be too scared by that stuff. We run this, and we get something a bit more modern. We actually get a date now. The day is now Wednesday, which is really good. Now, this is where my knowledge stops. I left the game and went to .NET App Dev, hid myself in the server, and mobile dev, was very happy. And then the world changed, and I came back like this. Lots had changed, and I struggled to understand why the modern things were the way they were. Why has everything changed? What's going on? So, for now, we'll start exploring the chapters that I missed. So, we enter this brave new world of package management, where we decided collectively as an industry that downloading files piecemeal is not nice. It's error prone, and we can't really start using the full breadth of technology when we're picking and choosing one little file here and there. Plus, placing files everywhere was just a bad idea. When we started using server-side backend magic, it was just a mess. So from 2013, we had Bower. Any Bower people here or familiar with the term at all? We got a few people? Okay. So Bower was the dominant front-end package manager, jQuery, so on, and NPM was the back-end for things like Moment and other things like this. In 2015, NPM ruled the world. So on a historical side note, the reason for this is you required NPM to install Bower, so eventually it was deprecated by lazy, efficient developers who decided why to have two package managers, just have one. So this is a very nice way to download and version all the things we want. Great. A slight warning. There is command line ahead. Check your breathing. It's okay. It'll be okay. The biggest change for me as a web dev, not as a developer, because as a web dev, was the command line. Before, drag files everywhere, it's all good. But now I have this command prompt to deal with. So you have to learn to love it. Even though we're now kind of trending as an industry back towards IDEs with Visual Studio Code and Sublime and so on, command prompt is still a big part of modern JavaScript. So instead of going to Google and going, where's my Moment, where's my jQuery, we instead go use the NPM or Node package manager, which you just call in it, and you start installing the libraries you want, jQuery, Moment, so on. These are two victims you may have picked already, that what we're going to use for this. And getting NPM was pretty easy. You typed NPM in it, you gave yourself a package name, a version, typed in your description, entry point don't care, test command don't care, git repo don't care. You just want to start doing packages. You're all right. Give yourself an author because you're arrogant like I am, and you press enter, and yes, you're okay. And it goes builds this JSON package.json file there. We can then go ahead and start installing our jQuery files. And it will go and download the world and bring it back to you. And now you can use jQuery, and now you can use Moment, which is much nicer than just having files kept everywhere. Great. Ooh. Clicking not working. Anyway, the package.json file looks like this. All the things we care about. We have a name for our solution, kind of like a solution or CS proj file where you have a name of it. And then you start doing the dependencies like you would NuGet or pick any other Ruby gems, other language of choice with versions. Scary little side note, semantic versioning here is basically just a really fun way of saying I want a certain version up to a certain type. I don't pretend to understand it. I go to a website, I put in a version number, it says you can use these versions. So that's what I like to do. But I'm told it's a bit of a dark art, but it's okay. What we're wanting here is jQuery 3.3.1 and Moment 2.22.2. And then we just go ahead and replace our files. So instead of having it strictly in our directory or wherever we put it, we now have gone no modules / whatever, no module / whatever. This is still kind of yuck. Yeah, like we have to know the different intricacies of the packages that we downloaded. It'd be kind of like using NuGet and referencing DLLs directly. Ick. But it's still nicer. We can now self-upgrade, we can version, we can deploy it somewhere else in outside packages. But we need to get a bit more mature. So the community then decided from that point, let's start talking about modules. So remove the file reference entirely, and let's start talking about more abstract terms of referencing packages we're using. So a nice little quick primer on modules. In 2009, CommonJS is born, which is the big, giant killer app. the ability to define modules, pieces of chunks of JavaScript code I can move around and put in places. And Node.js is the most well-known implementation of this standard, but there are others around, but I don't think we really care anymore. A JavaScript guru who's not in the room could tell me, but you're not. So it's the most well-known implementation. Modules allow JS to import and export code across files without resorting to globals. And the global part's important because from ye old PTSD 90s JavaScript, globals were bad, and we put them everywhere to try and make things work. And modules allow us to get around that hole and start using files elsewhere. Awesome. They're loaded by files from disk, which is fine for backend, but a browser can't access the server file system, so how do we make this work for the web? This is my little, because really, if we got a JavaScript app loaded in the browser, asking it to go find a file on a web server, which may not be exposed, there's a bit of a chicken egg problem there. But, aside from one point, to make this work, we don't actually require that much change. All we've done now is we've now declared some variables that reference the modules we're going to use. So in this case, jQuery and moment. And so including those files, we've just done the require, and we can use it just like we could before. So now we are safe from finding out where the files are in Node and where they put in the module folder. We can just go use that. And we carry on the same. Moment, format, append, awesome. This works fine on the server. It's a specific function to Node, and it will try and find the module by name instead of specifying a file. If you tried this in the browser, you would start sobbing, like my little emote over here, because require is not defined. A browser doesn't understand what require means. Oh no. Is this when I go extinct? To go to the dinosaur metaphor? No. We start using something called bundlers. You probably don't know what bundlers are, but you have heard the term or what they are before. We have two big boys in the module bundler story. We have Browserify, which is the original gangster of module bundlers, which pioneered the use of require statement on the front end. It was the one that introduced it. But then Webpack came in, and you've probably heard of this one as the stuff of nightmares. Who's here has ever encountered a bad Webpack installation or just been scared by it? Yeah, see, that's enough. We all have scars, deep, very deep. It's not that bad. It's just very powerful, and bad people can do bad things with it, is the best way I can put it out to you. Because most of the JavaScript ecosystem and community is, we're all learning, and we all picked this thing up, and we didn't quite know what to do with it. A lot of people have done things that now we look back on and go, duh. That's okay. It's got a bad reputation, but it's still a really good tool. All it does, that we really care about for the purpose of this conversation, is module bundling, which is kind of like a build chain tool. So make, cake, rake, MS build, pick your star ache tool here. And really, the two most common things we do is we transform source code. We go, all right, turn this into this. Or we do some plugins, minification, uglification, loading, that sort of thing. So for me, this is my massive light bulb moment. This is where I started to think that maybe I had a chance at understanding this. Bundlers make NPM possible with front-end modules. So if I have Webpack and I have Node, then I can start using modules that were originally for the server side in my front-end code, which completes the circle. So for me, boom, okay, now it makes sense. How does it even work though? This is a very, very sped up GIF, and you'll see why in a second. Because, as you can see, installing Webpack takes a long time, a very long time, and no one wants to sit here and read that. Nobody got time for that. But what this is doing is going ahead and downloading literally the internet and installing some things for you in this save deb command here. So we saw it before. Save means store it for my project. Save dev means it's a dev dependency. Don't deploy it to prod. We don't need Webpack up and running on the browser. That's not what it's for. It's for bundling and creating files and moving on. And so off we go. Then we get these dev dependencies. So as opposed to dependencies that we're going to deploy, we have dev dependencies. Fantastic. And we get a CLI too as well, so we can't escape. We then get to run a very complicated command. This one here. Whoops. And what this is going to do is walk through, look at your files, look at your rules, and go ahead and build, at the very end here, this script.js, which is really what we care about. This is going to go ahead and show some rules that I showed you before and say, all right, you've got all these require statements. I know what they mean. I'm going to patch in all this JavaScript and build this one big file to rule them all and then minify it down so the browser can understand it so we can code properly, but the browser gets the real nice transpiled logic downstream. What this really means for us is that we can still do great, nice, neat dev on the front end, and Webpack can build debug sources so we can go back and forth and debug properly and not have to understand what it is. And I'll show you that in a second why that's really cool. Now, we just get to call this. We replace all our calls to jQuery.js and moment.js and our normal scripts with this distribution/scripts.js. So we've got this mega file, we reference it, and then we go ahead and we have a module.export file in our config. Now this is just, but context is not really something you need to walk away and understand, but this can help us remove some of the command line arguments and help us do what mode we want, and we're on a public, and this file can get enormous. And this is where Webpack gets its bad reputation. Now, this is still getting messy. This is still not great. This is still a file that I have to understand and write and parse and hope no one else screws up. So let's get a bit more modern. The next stage of the evolution was implement a form of a compilation and a build system. Make sense? So transpiling, which I like to call development witchcraft, means converting code in one language to code in another similar language. So we can write JavaScript in a language that is now a bit more friendly. We can use new language features that old browsers don't support yet. Now, considering I bailed from web dev due to IE6 being the bane of my existence, this is pretty big for me. Because the one thing I couldn't stand about web development was I'd got to use new feature and, oh, sorry, we still support IE6 because big, giant enterprise customer here has spent millions of dollars on ActiveX. So I go and cry in my corner and go write the old way. But then transpiling means we don't have to do it anymore. We don't have to worry if Chrome or Firefox or Opera or Edge or Chrome Edge or IE have done something different. We can just write in one language and compile down to the least common denominator. Someone's done that work for us. In 2010, the first one to do this CoffeeScript, which is kind of by the wayside now, but it was the first one to try and do this. 2015, we have Babel, which is more about standards compliance and any kind of language features. Try and get every browser on the same footing so I don't have to worry about my backwards compatibility. Or we get TypeScript, which is basically adding types to JavaScript, which makes it very nice for C# developers like myself who are pretending to be JavaScript developers. So for me, this moment was witchcraft. Very much witchcraft. That's okay. On a side note, you may have heard the term ES5 or ES 2015 or ES6 tossed around. Anyone heard these terms before? You've been completely baffled? Yeah. So it stands for ECMA script, which is the standards version of JavaScript. Why they couldn't just call it JS5 or JS 2015, I'll never know. But ECMA script, if you hear that term, put JavaScript in, you're good. ES5 is what we all know and hate, I mean love, and it's compatible with anything that calls itself a JavaScript client. Your IoT Raspberry Pi running Raspbian from 4 years ago to Chrome today. ES 2015 is the future. With many new things, it honestly could be a whole day workshop by itself. But the most important things are module loading that's actually handled directly, so require actually becomes a word it understands, and proper async handling. But with Babel, we can write 2015 code that will be ES5 compliant, which is really cool. Which means we get to do something like this. Just like Webpack, a transpiler comes in by npm as a dev dependency. And we just go, yep, I'm going to go ahead and please give me all this cool stuff. Off it goes. And then we get to add one last rule to our Webpack file. This terrifying piece of JSON basically says, hey, for every test.json, for every JavaScript file you could find, not in no modules, please don't touch that, where our packages go, or bad times, go use our Babel loader with our preset environment. So just go for everything and make it least common denominator. And that means we can start using fun new features, such as the import from, which is the better require, if you will. So that's to start dealing with classes and other things. And we can also start doing in-string interpolation. So instead of doing a plus sign like we're living in the 2000s, we can start doing the backtick and insert code that way. So we're looking like a semi-modern language now. Remember, we came from, just to give you some idea, we came from that. So we had this mess, and now we have this. That's a pretty nice jump in terms of not something I can still read it as a JavaScript developer. I can still go, oh, I can Google that, I can look at that, I can import that. You still kind of get what's going on, but you have to worry about your browser being broken or whatever else it may be. So, but you're saying, Ryan, you mentioned before that as a C# developer, there's something that might be cool to me. I go, yes, I told you about that. I don't often talk in third person, I promise. But using TypeScript, we can just install a whole bunch of loaders and types. So with TypeScript, we're getting type support for JavaScript. So who here has ever been frustrated writing JavaScript only to be told that you put something in and syntax error incorrect because you misspelled the function and you had no idea what's going on? Only a few people. Okay, a few people, good. Because that was also my major gripe. And going from C# backwards, I hate it, the fact that I'd made one typo and suddenly the whole page broke. TypeScript gives us a bit more compile time checking and some other stuff, or transpile checking, I should say, to stop us shooting ourselves in the foot. We get a loader like we did Babel. So just as Babel did transpiling, TypeScript does transpiling. And then we get to install these special packages called types, this @types directory. And what that means for us is, hey, jQuery moment, they're not actually TypeScript files, but some poor soul, has gone through the entire library and written type definitions for it. So now we can use it as if it was strongly typed, which is awesome, and they don't get enough praise, I swear, because that would be messy. Okay. Now I'm going to very quickly tempt the demo gods. Ooh. Pray for me. Okay, so let's demonstrate. Some good old-fashioned TypeScript. Now, you're going to look at this up front and say, well, Ryan, there's not much different here. And there isn't, that's true, because TypeScript is compliant with the ES 2015 code we just showed you. But there's a few differences here. You'll notice that up here, this is actually a .ts file, .typescript, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on the side here that we should probably play with. So, from the top, if I start hovering over these things, because I've got that @types jQuery installation happening, and I've got a bunch of other handlers happening, I can now get IntelliSense documents and other things. So I look this, it's going to start telling me about the various types and other things in a language that's very esoteric, but trust me, it's there. So in this case, we're asking for an add or an add back or add class, and it's giving me the classes I can use. And if I don't do that, if I do it wrong, if, for example, in this selector I gave it something incorrect, it wouldn't work. So that's nice. What is also important to us as developers in this is we have a not so scary Webpack file. This is fine. All we've got is we've got a TypeScript loader looking for J or TS files, because it can also transpile TS files from a normal ES 2015 into ES5, or TS files. That's what that regex is doing. We put it for our awesome TypeScript loader. Whoopsies. That's a lot of zoom. And then we'll put it into from our scripts.ts file into this main.js file. Other little things that may be interested are things like ts.config.json, which is a whole bunch of compiler settings about what I want to do with my TypeScript to make it a bit more C#-like, or any language you prefer. But in the day, we've still got a classic HTML file with our ID of SP, our basic page that we're going to add things to. And at the bottom, we have our distributed main.js, which doesn't exist right now. That's not there. So if I open up Firefox, the one true browser, now I'm getting lots of red cards. You can see that if I refresh this page, because I haven't built anything, there's no JavaScript loading, and if I go into a console, it may give me an error. There we go. Ryan, what are you doing? I can't load that file. We haven't built it yet. So if I wander back into my console with a command I prepared earlier, I'm going to run Webpack on this. And Webpack is going to go ahead. Ooh, that's awkward. See, demo gods. That'll teach me. Cool. So you'll see what this has gone and done is we have gone, all right, you've told me to use TypeScript, so I'm going to go and do that for you. And then I'm going to go through and find the main.javascript file, and then go and build that and build you a scripts.d. That's, for some reason, a type definition. .d definition. Hey, that makes sense. I've learned something. Teach myself on stage. And then we're going to go ahead and build that out for you. So if I now go ahead and refresh this page, it presents our JavaScript that we just built, which is pretty nice. If I go back into VS Code and look inside my distribution, my main.js, this is not what I left behind at all. But this is what Webpack does. Webpack is going to go through and do all the requires and other things that we've seen before, create fake namespaces and do all kinds of stuff that we don't care about, but the browser cares about. So this is what gets presented after Webpack's all been done. It's going to go through and minify things, and there's comments here I could probably remove, and I can do other things to make it more proficient and performant on the browser, but I haven't done that here, just to demonstrate that what goes in does not come out. It's also built this d.ts, which is this exciting, fascinating file of export nothing. The reason for this is a type definition file doesn't make sense without a class. There's no class in here, it's just a plain JavaScript file. But it's still gone ahead and built that for us. Last thing, if you go ahead and have a look inside Firefox or Chrome or Edge or Opera or IE, even if you really don't like yourself, we can go ahead and see on the side here, if I do the right refresh, that it's actually picked up that, hey, you use Webpack here. And for those who can't see that, that's what I get. Essentially, at the side here, we have decided that we want to use Webpack. There we go, there we go, that's good. So Firefox and its debugger, Chrome and otherwise, have picked up that, hey, you've actually gone ahead and defined the Webpack file here and a TypeScript file. So we can ask it and go, hey, what's our TypeScript? Not exactly what we left it with, but enough for us to figure out where the transpiles happened. So this is what Webpack has built from the TypeScript file and demonstrated back to the client going, yeah, I built that for you. That's all right, isn't it? Which is really just renaming some variables and all that stuff, but we can kind of see the logic where it's come from, which is great. And that is TypeScript. Yay. That wasn't so bad. So, bonus round. Let's talk a bit about task runners as a way to automate build tasks such as running Babel. Because honestly, that command we just ran, that I had to copy and paste because I couldn't remember, that's not a great way of doing things in the modern way. So in 2013, we had Grunt or Gulp. Anyone here have experienced those tools? Battle Scars, Pain, cool. And these were tools that were meant to automate just basic tasks by command line. So, excuse me, the way you'd script something and say, this is my process for building out SVGs into PNGs. Go ahead and do that in a command line tool. So basically like a bunch of batch files. In 2015, NPM decided that actually, why can't we just invoke the tools directly? Let's just call them and make shortcuts to it. So we can do things like that, where in our package.json, which is our core where we keep all our npm stuff, we've got a build, a watch, and a server. And these are all things we can define by ourselves, and these are all commands that we want to go ahead and build. So at the bottom there, I've decided that it's time to install Webpack dev server, which will run things in the background, and as I change code, it will recompile it for me. Super nice. And I'm going to call npm run server. And what that's going to do is look inside package.json for a server and call Webpack dev server -- open. So no more remembering complicated commands, and we can put variables and other things inside this. So there's a lot going on here. This is really the current state of JavaScript development. Comes to the future here. There's a lot of moving pieces, especially if you're a beginner or have come back to it in a long time. So this is all, I don't want to learn all this. This isn't great. I just want to get in there and start making trouble. I know where it all comes from now. I've got my history lesson. Modern frameworks such as Angular, React, or Vue come with command line tools to scaffold and really make this out for us. Any Angular fans in the room? React fans? Vue fans? We're all like 1/3. It's great. I'm going to disappoint 2/3 of you and start doing a wrap up with a tour of React, because I did promise you React after all. So React uses all the tools that we've spoken about. We've got npm to install, Webpack to bundle, Babel or TypeScript to support new languages, task runners for a build experience, and a command line tool, create React app, to try and get us started. So using the CLI, as we just discussed, is a simple case of running this sweet create React app command. It does some stuff. It goes ahead and installs some packages, React, React DOM, React scripts, so on and so forth. We don't really care. And it's going to build us a package for us. Sweet. Which looks a bit like that. So what's going on here? Calm down. Okay, this is a JSX file. JavaScript something. Someone in the room can correct me later. And we've started talking about classes and components, but we've still got the import stuff that we recognized before. We've got some inline stuff going before, some rendering. Not sure what's going on there. On the side there, we have index.html. I know HTML. We've got some apps, some tests, some service workers, some packages. Okay, this is looking all right. What React actually really is a collection of components that build on top of each other. There's topics on web components in tomorrow, I think, if you're really interested in deep diving in this stuff, but we don't really care right now. What we want to care about is how do we use this stuff. So I've got my package, JSON, that has all my commands and my dependencies. I've got my app.js, which seems to contain some kind of class. I've got index.html, that's probably important. But now that we know what's going on, know the pieces, we can generally kind of maneuver around here. We also have a task runner. So if we go ahead and run npm start, which is going to run the script's start that we define or has been defined for us in package.json, we go ahead and it runs a web server for us. Now you know what comes next, right? Really, really tempting the demo gods. Seriously, this will be fun. Okay, so how about we put all this newfound knowledge to work? No. And we go ahead and actually move our React app and go and put in our base library. So our moment, our jQuery, all the stuff we talk about, let's go add that back into our React app and see how we go. But the one thing I'm going to do first is remove this folder, or we're going to have some bad times. No modules folders, by the way, are notoriously large and scary. When I say no downloads the internet, I'm not kidding. So for the record, you really, really should never run npm install on conference Wi-Fi. which I hope I don't have to do, or we'll be here for a while. Okay, so let's get out the way, delete that, don't care. All right, here is our dinosaur app. If I go back into my command prompt, and I go into WebDino, and I go npm start, we're going to go again and get that React experience. It's going to start up a demo server, it's going to pile up, and it's going to, no Siri, bad. We're going to get a welcome to React page. Now, because we've got Webpack dev server running in React, I can now start doing some pretty funky things that were pretty new to me as a scary dinosaur. If I open up my app.js file, which is really where this all starts, you see that welcome to React? If I go ahead and just update this, then press save, web server notices the change and updates. So this is now part of a modern development experience. So I'm part of changing JavaScript, save, redeploy. I can start doing some very complicated stuff on the fly and keep that going and see what happens. And that applies to anything. I can even break it if I want to, which isn't hard. So if I decide that actually, oh, okay. Apparently breaking is hard. 1, 2, 3, go. Boom. So it will also tell you in the browser, hey, by the way, you messed up. You probably want to fix that. And so we start to get a much nicer experience. And now I start to think, oh, maybe I can actually see myself writing JavaScript. This is kind of getting up to a point where I'm comfortable doing this. So as I exercise, as I said, we're going to start renaming files and changing and making our, we'll fix that compile error. And we're going to make this into our basic app. And I'll show you how easy it is using the techniques that we've just learned. Nice and easy. So we've got this .js file up here. Now, really, we should be calling this .jsx. Now, the reason for this is if you very quickly notice, I don't know if you can see at the back there, but VS Code will recognize that a JSX file is a React file and it changes to an Atom logo. As you can see, well, actually, you can't see. There you go. And that helps us do some intelligence, some nice things. It'll also be down at the bottom here saying, oh, you've got some JavaScript React code. We want to help, because I remember dark old days, Notepad++, JavaScript, no fun. Let's not do that anymore. All right, so we see up here that we don't have to just import files. We can, or modules, we can actually import code and images. Now, we don't really need this logo. Off it goes. App.css sounds important. Over here, I have my old code, the old stuff that we're using before. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my styles in there. Don't do that anymore. I'm going to go ahead and get my index and go, oh, I guess I want the body. That sounds important to me. I'll go and grab that. I'll go throw that in here. And uh-oh, things are broken. So first rule of React that you have to care about is that I actually need to have everything in this return bracket, this return component, must be wrapped in a div or an element of some kind. I can't have more than one element. It doesn't like that. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. Sweet. Now it's mad about comments. Now this isn't HTML and this isn't JavaScript. This is JSX, React specific. So I need to start using React comments, which look a bit like, if I just do that, it's just going to print it out. I don't want that. I then tell React that I want to break out of the HTML mode and go into JavaScript. So now I'm in JavaScript with my curly brackets, as you can see there. And then I just make a comment, like I normally would. And so now we're starting to mingle with JavaScript comments and JavaScript code and HTML code and starting to kind of put them all together in a component-based way. So I'll do that here as well. Get rid of our, all right. This is looking this is looking all right. We'll go ahead and we'll update this. Fire is always good. And because VS Code knows about this, we can call format document and it will go ahead and fix it up for us. Awesome. So if I save that file, it will automatically update in the background. And oh no. Uh-oh. What did I break? Exactly. So if we go back into, I actually think this is the one thing that it can't compile, so we need to go ahead and restart it. Gotcha. Yay, okay. That doesn't look what we left it like. That's a bit junky. What's going on here? We had Bootstrap CSS happening before, and now we don't. So we probably should go put that in. In fact, we should go put in all our headers stuff in. So a page here, all we've really done here in our app.jsx is we've replaced the inside body. But there's other things. There's the header and the meta and all that kind of stuff, which actually lives up in this public folder, which is what is first loaded by the browser. So your heads and so on, your React app, we'll go and change that title. I wonder if, does it support emojis? We'll find out. But here we can start putting in all the things that we have lost from our index.html. So we've got a few, got a link statement up here. We'll go and add that in. And this is just, for those who aren't aware, it's just a straight up CDN link to Bootstrap with a whole bunch of integrity shards and so on. So what we can do now, given that this is a modern JavaScript talk, is we can load CDN CSS and JavaScript files from a remote server and give it a SHA and integrity check in the browser to do that for us, so we don't have to worry about ourselves getting owned and losing out to some hacker with a Bitcoin mine or something. So we'll save that. That's almost there. We're looking good. But the other thing that we've changed is because we're now dealing in a component-based language where we're going down the rabbit hole, if you will, everything's wrapped in divs. That wasn't done before. So we're probably going to need to do a little bit of modification to our CSS here. And we'll go and we'll change our JSX and we'll say, actually, let's make this a, excuse me, make that a parent. Awesome. And go back to our styles and we'll say, actually, that really belongs in .parent and that's really a parent thing. Now this works with CSS too. So if I pull this away and I save this, in theory, nope. All right, I have to refresh the hardware. Oh, I just got my CSS wrong, which is completely true. We're going to live with that because I don't want to waste time. That's okay. I'm sure there's something I've done horrifically wrong. So if we come back to app.js, we're doing all right here. We're okay. What we really need to play with here is start figuring out, have we broken anything? You saw us up before that we've got some errors here. Emoji should be wrapped in spans and links must have a semi thing. We can fix those if we wanted to. We can say, all right, emojis, what was that? I needed the image and something else, and I put fire inside, and I do something else. And yeah, okay. This is feeling like a modern development practice. Error, roll image, or no, a span. Sorry. Ah, I am getting to that. But thank you. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that in and go roll equal image, and it should be, that should be one error going away. Oh wait, I forgot the ARIA label. Anyone familiar with ARIA labels here and why we should use them? Exactly. So modern tools now tell us to get off our rear ends and actually start doing this. So now we've got rid of one error. A warning, fantastic. We've now been told that we can't have a plain link, which I believe was at the top of our JSX file over here. And we're just make that back to a current page. All good. Sweet. So as I think Jake mentioned just before, we haven't got through all our sets of errors with React. That's our compile errors, but we also have browser errors. So if we look inside the browser, inside our console, it's said here, you got this DOM property called class. Did you mean class name? So remember I said previously that VS in React JSX, this is not quite HTML, it's not quite JavaScript, it's a bit in between. We can't use this class thing. It requires the React template because every element here is a component, which is something brand new for us. So what we'll do is just go and do class equal and class name, and we'll replace all that. There we go, no errors. Still bad CSS, but no errors. Cool. So now we're looking like we got our code back, but we've forgotten the original point of this talk, which is to start putting moment and adding in a date time here. So that's the last thing that we've got to do here to make our lives better. So remember how I said never ever do npm in a demo? I'm a filthy liar. So what we need to do here is we need to actually go ahead and install packages to help us. Now, there is, moment itself, but generally when we're using React or Angular even, we still have a wrapper on top of that. Kind of like how TypeScript has its types class, where I had to go, what's the type of moment, what's the type of jQuery? We also need a component way of accessing moment or other libraries directly in React. So in this case, that one's just called React moment. I'll do a save. Play your favorite Jeopardy music here. Do, 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 do. Cool. So what we've got here is it's gone ahead and installed that package for us, and now we can go ahead and use it. It's also found a bunch of vulnerabilities, but you're in this talk, not Troy Hunt's talk, so it's okay, you don't care about security. Okay. Yeah, I know, right? That's low for a node package, it's low. All I did was install React and moment. But hey, so the security guy in front here is just like dying inside. Also my boss. So, now we've got our component, we've installed it, now we can use it. So we'll go ahead and we use our import. Now we've got intelligence here, but the way the import statement works is we import the class name and then we say where it's from. So if I say from here, it's going to suggest to me moment, because it's already picked up that I've installed that package and VS Code's smart enough to know what it is. So enter, there we go. It's also gone gray because I'm not actually using it yet. So just like our previous demo before, we'll go ahead and we'll do this, but we don't need jQuery this time. React is going to do our DOM manipulation for us. Excellent. So I put my breakpoint and we go, the current date is, now before we'd just go something like moment dot. That's not going to work because it's HTML. We could break into JavaScript and try that too, but that's not really a React way, but we'll get you there. We're going to instead use a React component that we just installed, which is this something. Now, notice before I mentioned that TypeScript had a monopoly on classes. Well, that's not true. ES 2015 also knows about classes and can do some compile time checking as well, which is what's happening here. So I say I want to use my moment, and every component in React has a properties, so I can go, actually, I was doing a format before, so let's see if that exists here. There we go. Awesome. So I'll just go ahead and say DDDD. And if I get this out the way and I save this file, if I had my web server running, demos, the best. Try one at home. I should get my, What did I break? I know what I broke. I know what I broke. That's okay. Let's get you out of the way for a second. This is why you got into React and said, I'm getting out now, because what is this? What is this? How do I do this? I did. I imported it twice. Nice. And now we can do live debugging, which is not what you're here for, but that's okay. So if we just get rid of that entirely, I'm going to give myself 20 seconds to fix this, or we're going to walk away. Nope. Abort. Pull out. Abort now. Basically, what's meant to happen here is it should show the content, but it's just as likely that I haven't been able to. Yes. I know what I've done wrong. Hey, we're all friends here, right? Please get green cards. So we go ahead and we import the wrong component. We got a bunch of compile errors. Fantastic. If you import the right import module, yay! Pity clap. Okay, so CSS failure and bad moment and bad notes aside, we now have a working demo again with React, and we're able to go ahead and debug that using things like the React tools and dig into our app and start playing with things and look at the profiler, and we can also inspect in our debugger. And inside the React development tools, we can start breaking things and having a look, and if we refresh it with the debugger open, it'll point out the things that we've got installed and so on, which is great. Again, the code that it's pulled out for us is going to be this living nightmare of Webpack and other things, but we don't care. We've got React working, we've got a compiler, we even got a debugger, but I'm definitely not try that live. And there we are. React. Oh no, see, the problem with that is that the styles.css is that I've given it a parent and a container, and I haven't got the class name, the hierarchy right. But that's okay. I'm sure if I went ahead and if I went to my complete demo slides code, when you go and download this code, you can have a look at yourself and see what I messed up and tweet me and tell me how bad I am. Okay. I really needed that. So there we go. So you've done for all that. What do we actually know? You can walk into a room, like I just did, and talk about JavaScript. You're no longer a dinosaur. Congratulations. We started with plain HTML and JavaScript. We moved to a package manager. We used the module bundler. We built with a transpiler. We automated that with task runners. And we ended with modern application. Which means, guess what? Now you're a modern JavaScript developer. And you too can have the experience of being a modern JavaScript developer. Thank you very much, guys. Inspiration for this talk. Great blog post on what inspired me to even do this talk in the beginning. Source code if you need it. Slides and source code will be on Twitter in the next few minutes if my automated post works. You can get that QR code and go nuts. Other than that, enjoy the rest of NDC Sydney. If you have questions, I'll take them up here, so don't bother everyone else. Thank you very much.